A major new study from Northwestern Mutual says that Americans think that they need $1.46 million to retire. I'm going to show you, using the data from the report, why that's most certainly wrong and how to determine what the number is for you. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
A new report was just released from Northwestern Mutual, and it's all over the news. The report says that the respondents feel like they need $1.46 million to retire comfortably. Now, for people watching this video, you have one of two reactions. The first is that that number is just unmanageable. It's way too high. You can't hit it. And for some of you, you're probably thinking, well, I could hit it if I continue to do what I'm doing. And fewer still would think, hey, great, I've already hit that number. But regardless of where you sit, here's one thing that's absolutely true. That number has very little to do with you specifically. And I'm going to show you why. And I'm going to use other evidence, the Federal Reserve Board's own data, for example, and 30 years of history. By the end of this video, you're going to have a framework for calculating your own number, and the data is going to be a lot more encouraging than the headline would suggest. All right, let's get into it. First, let's look at what this report actually is. Northwestern Mutual interviewed 4,375 people and asked them one question. How much money do you feel like you need to comfortably retire? That's it. It's a feelings survey. It's not based on a financial plan. And what's really interesting is that same question has been asked many times over the last several years, because this is an annual report and it has bounced around a lot. In 2022, the response was 1.25 million. In 2023, 1.27 million. 2024, 1.46 million. 2025, back down to 1.26 million. And now in 2026, back up to 1.46 million. That's a $200,000 swing up and down based on how someone was feeling in January about their place in the world, I suppose. And Northwestern Mutual says right there in the same study that there's no universal retirement number for everyone, and that what you actually need depends on when you want to retire, where you want to live, and what kind of lifestyle you want. So even the people who publish the survey say that you can't take it as written because it may not apply to you. Now here's where the media can sometimes be a bit misleading. Most of the outlets that reported the survey paired it with another survey, the Federal Reserve Board Survey of Consumer Finances. That survey showed that the median retirement savings for individuals between ages 55 and 64 was $185,000. They thought they needed $1.46 million, according to the Northwestern Mutual survey. The Federal Reserve Board survey says that they have $185,000. So if you take those two data points and you put them side by side, well, the outcome looks horrible, like nobody's going to make it. But let's dig more deeply into the Federal Reserve data, because that's supremely important. The overall median retirement savings across American families, not just people near retirement, all families, is $87,000. And here's the one that stops people. 54% of American households have zero saved for retirement. Nothing. And on the other end, only 5% of American households have $1 million or more saved. So if you're watching this video and you have meaningful retirement savings, you're ahead of most people. And that's not an insignificant point. But here's the problem with every single one of these comparisons. All of them compare your point to 1.46 million, and it assumes that the portfolio has to do all of the work. And it doesn't. The biggest number missing from the data is Social Security. And Social Security, the average American family, the average American couple, has a Social Security payment of about $3,500 per month. Now let's go back to the Northwestern Mutual math. Under their own 4% rule, 1.46 million generates $58,000 a year, or about $4,800 a month. For many couples, Social Security covers more than half of that amount before even touching your savings. That means the portfolio gap isn't 1.46 million. It's the amount that you need to cover the difference between Social Security and the amount that you actually spend. For many couples, the target actually lands somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000, not 1.46 million. Now, there's something else about how this number gets interpreted. The survey is based on an individual. This is one person, and this is what they think they should have for retirement. But a couple doesn't spend twice that amount. In fact, a couple rarely spends 150% of that amount in most cases. So if someone is treating the 1.46 million as an individual target and you need to double that for the household, well, the target just looks like it's out of sight, impossible to hit. Next, I want to talk about how people actually spend money in retirement, because most of the retirement rules out there, like the 4% rule, assume that you spend the same amount every year adjusted for inflation. In other words, you spend it linearly. But that's not how people spend money in retirement. In fact, it's not even close. Researchers have done the work, and they show that people spend their money in a smile pattern. What is a smile pattern? Well, they spend a lot when they first retire. It drops pretty significantly during middle retirement and pops up again near the end, primarily because of medical costs. The beginning years of retirement are what financial planners call the go-go years. And during that time, there's a lot of travel. That's a big portion of the spending. This is when you have the most energy and you want to get out and you want to do things that you had never done before, or you couldn't do them very often anyway. And one of those is usually travel. ARP data shows that people between ages 65 and 69, on average, travel 3.3 times a year. For those over age 75, it drops to 2.5 times a year. And then after that, it goes down pretty significantly. And there are terms for it. The beginning stage of retirement is called the go-go years. The middle, the slow-go years. And the late stage retirement years are called the no-go years. Research from Morningstar's David Blanchett, published in the Journal of Financial Planning, found that on average, a retiree starting with a $100,000 annual budget can expect their real inflation-adjusted spending to drop to about $74,000 by age 84. That's roughly a 26% decline in real spending. JP Morgan Asset Management shows something similar. Their data shows total spending drops on average more than 30% between ages 60 and 85. A flat spending assumption over 30 years means that the number is likely overstated. $1.46 million is likely overstated because people won't be spending the same in the middle and in the end as they did in the beginning of retirement. Now, this is a good point to acknowledge that generic advice left unchecked isn't great advice. It's something, but it's not great advice. Personalized advice is what most people really need. The spending smile isn't the same for everyone. Your travel plans, your health, whether you have a mortgage, whether you're planning to help kids or grandkids, your Social Security timing, all of it shapes your actual number. The tool that I use and personally recommend is Bolden Personal Financial Planning Software. Bolden is an affiliate of ours. In fact, we only have 3, and Bolden is only one of 3. Bolden will let you plug in your own numbers and your own Social Security information, as well as a whole host of other information specifically about you, and come to a conclusion about what you should be spending at different points in your retirement. If you'd like to try their full-featured software free for 2 weeks, go to go.bolden.com/Schmidt. That's my affiliate code. You can get 2 weeks free of their full-featured software. After that, it's $12 a month paid annually. Beyond Social Security and the spending curve, there are some additional points which suggest that the $1.46 million might be overstated. First is your Social Security claiming decision, and this is a big decision. It's also one that the Northwestern Mutual study cites as an important factor in the overall decisioning process. 39% of boomers say that they're going to claim Social Security as early as they possibly can, even though their payment will be permanently reduced. On the other side, only 21% say that they plan on claiming as late as possible to maximize the size of their payment. Delaying Social Security from age 62 to age 70 can increase the size of your Social Security payment by over 70%, depending on when your full retirement age is. For a married couple, the difference in lifetime income from that one decision can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that number, hundreds of thousands of dollars, happens to be the same size as the gap between last year's survey results and this year's survey results. Second is working in retirement, and 46% of boomers say that they plan on having some form of employment, part-time employment, in retirement. When you move to Gen X and millennials, that number increases to 50%. Even modest part-time income, let's say $1,500 a month, dramatically reduces the size of the portfolio that you need to have in retirement. Next up is spending expectations, and 55% of the people in the Northwestern study said that they plan to spend less in retirement than they do today, and that aligns with the data that we see from historical spending patterns. Every one of these factors, Social Security, part-time income, less spending in retirement, moves you further away from that $1.46 million bogey and closer to something that's more realistic. All right, let's build your actual framework, and you only need 3 pieces of data to do it. The first is what you actually plan on spending in retirement, and this is a pretty important question. Not what you spend today, but what you plan on spending today, because they are different. You'll be spending your money on things like healthcare, travel, the things you want to do, not the things you have to do. Number 2, what does your guaranteed monthly income look like? Things like Social Security, or if you have a pension, or if you have an annuity. Do you have rental income? And do you plan to work part-time? If so, how much do you think you're going to earn? And number 3, subtract number 1, what you plan on spending, from number 2, your guaranteed income, and that is the difference in your monthly income you need to cover with your portfolio. Now use the $1,000 a month rule as a rough guide. What's the $1,000 a month rule? Well, you have 2 numbers. You have what you expect to spend every month, and you have what your guaranteed income is every month. And the difference is what you need to cover. For every $1,000 more than what you plan on spending, you need approximately $300,000 in savings and investments, of course, to cover that $1,000 per month. Let's run a real number example. Say you plan to spend $5,000 a month in retirement. Your combined Social Security, if you claim at your full retirement age, is $3,000 a month. Your gap is $2,000 a month. $2,000 times 300 equals $600,000. That's your starting point, not $1.4 million. Now, taxes, healthcare costs, longevity, sequence of return risks, and other factors like those also need to factor into this and will undoubtedly push that number higher. But this is a good starting point, and you can adjust based on the other factors that I just mentioned. But the framework is the same, and most likely your starting point will be a lot less than $1.46 million. And here's the power of the Social Security decision inside that framework. If you delay claiming, say from 62 to 67, and your benefit goes from $2,000 a month to $2,800 a month, that $800 increase in guaranteed income cuts your required portfolio by $240,000. One decision. So the study says you need $1.46 million. The Federal Reserve data says that most Americans have far less than that. But these comparisons and others like them often are missing the most important variable, Social Security. And when you add Social Security in the mix, particularly if you delay claiming Social Security, the amount that you need to cover becomes less. Real spending goes down between 26 and 30% for the average person from the time you start retirement to the time you reach late-stage retirement. And guaranteed source income like Social Security, pensions, annuities, etc., are generally not factored into these numbers. And one of the biggest factors of them all is when you claim Social Security. 39% of boomers say that they're going to claim it as early as possible, but for the majority of them, that's the wrong move. So your number isn't 1.46 million. Your number is the difference between what you plan on spending per month and what you have coming in per month. And you need approximately $300,000 per $1,000 per month of difference. If you like this video, check out that video, what Vanguard found after studying 5 million 401ks. Are you next? Also, don't forget to check out Bolden at go.bolden.com/Schmidt to get your 2 weeks free. After that, it's just $12 a month paid annually. This is Jeff Schmidt, and I will see you in that video right there.